let's talk about some of the most important stuff in Lost Ark, and probably going to be the thing that is on your mind a lot as you're playing the game. You get to a point where you're really just thinking, how do I get more of these? How do I get them quickly? And how do I not waste these materials? Because they're going to be the main driving force behind your progression through gearing, increasing your item level, which is going to unlock new content such as higher level chaos dungeons, and eventually this is going to be what allows you to move from tier 1 gear into tier 2 and tier 3. So it's a really big deal. It's a huge part of the game, and you want to make sure to not waste these materials and use them properly. So I wanted to kind of get into a bit of a breakdown here, so hopefully you can put your resources to good use. So let's get into it. I'm going to do all these examples with tier 1. Most of the things that I say are going to apply to tier 2, but I'm guessing that if you're watching this video, it's very likely that you're not going to be in tier 2 or any of that sort of stuff. This is really mostly to help people out who are still kind of overwhelmed because the game just throws so much stuff at you. It's incredibly overwhelming. And this right here is one of the things that you really want to make sure that you get right, because a lot of these materials are time gated. You can only actually get a certain amount of them every certain so often, at least efficiently anyway, and because of that you want to use them properly. So I'm going to focus on the materials on this top line right here, these ones, as well as in the currency tab, this one right here, which is the harmony shards. Now let's start off with the harmony shards, because what this is this is going to be the material that allows you to basically give your equipment experience through honing. So once you unlock honing, which happens at around level 50 towards the end of the story, once you kind of unlock a lot of the end game stuff, when you actually go to the honing and you go to upgrade, this is going to be what fills up the experience bar right here. So you're going to need a lot of these, because every piece of gear, all your armor, all your weapons are going to need to be leveled up fully before you actually click the upgrade button and try to tier it up. At every single level, you're going to need to end up doing this. So you can see you need a lot of these shards here. You also need a few of them to actually, like, go through the upgrade process and not just fill up the experience bar, but most of them are going to be just by filling up the experience bar. Now, really importantly, these are going to feel very limited unless you actually buy the little bundles of them in the cash shop in the Mari store. And so if you're free to play or you don't plan on spending money on the cash shop, these are definitely going to be a very limited resource. And what that means is you're probably going to want to be on the lookout for getting more of these besides just your chaos dungeons. I'm going to talk more about the chaos dungeons here in a second, because some of the most important things that you do in the game are going to be your daily 2 chaos dungeons, and possibly even early on consider making alts so that you can do 2 chaos dungeon runs on your alts as well, because it's going to be one of the quickest and most efficient ways to get a lot of these really important materials. But on your main character here, your first 2 runs of the chaos dungeon that you do each day are going to give you a ton of harmony shards. I just did a couple of runs right now, and each one gives you something like 5, 6, 7,000. It's quite a bit. So, very important to make sure that you do that. Also, if you end up needing more, there are other things that you can do, like in the Una's tasks, there's going to be some dailies that you can do that give you harmony shards as well. Now, I would generally recommend that you're probably going to want to feel like you want not the harmony shards, but the harmony leapstones more, and I'm going to talk about this one next here, because this is also probably the second biggest or even the biggest bottleneck. Now, if you end up buying the harmony shards in the cash shop through the Mari store, or if you have just a ton of alts and you're like super efficient with that, you're probably going to feel like the leapstones are actually more limited than the harmony shards. But either way, these are 2 of the more limited materials, so you're really going to want to be on the lookout through these. Absolutely make sure that you are working on your Una daily quests and your Una weekly quests. And out of all of these pages of stuff that's available here, there's a lot of different dailies that you can do. I probably recommend doing the ones that give you the harmony shards or the harmony leapstones, though, because these are just such limited and such important items. Like, you just need so many of these. Gear progression is so important. You're really looking for as many ways to get these as you can, because you're just always going to feel like you need more of them. So those are probably the 2 most important ones right here. Now, the other materials that you're going to need for the actual upgrade process are the destruction stone fragments, the red ones. These are for your weapon. And then the blue ones, the guardian stone fragments, these are for your armor. Now, these ones are probably not going to feel as big of a bottleneck, especially if you end up buying more of the enhancement materials through the store. But a really big deal about these, and I want to mention one super important thing, and this is probably the main reason why people are talking about alts. If if you're researching Lost Ark, you're probably going to have heard at one point that alts are important in this game. And one of the reasons why is on an alt character, for your Chaos Dungeons, you get 2 Chaos Dungeon runs per day where you get just an insane amount of materials. After those 2 runs, it's a bit of a different story, but the first 2 runs, you get an insane amount of materials, and you're going to get loaded up on these Destruction Stone and these Guardian Stone fragments. Now, the other cool thing is the ones that you actually get on your first 2 runs are going to be the unbound ones. It's going to be these ones here, and you can actually trade these between your characters. So you can move these over from alts to your main character and vice versa. And it's going to be the fastest, most efficient way. Like in just a couple of minutes, you can get something like 500 to 1,000 of these just by doing your 2 daily Chaos Dungeon runs. So, if you set up your alts, you will have no problem with this. It's going to be super easy. But also make sure that you can see that I have 2 different piles of them in my inventory here, right? There's 2 different stacks because one of them is the bound one, one of them is the unbound ones. What I will say, just as a little tip with these, is if you do have 2 piles like this, use the ones that are bound first on your main character, because the ones that are unbound, you can trade between your alts. And once you end up using all your T1 resources and getting to tier 2, you're probably not going to have too much. In fact, you won't have a use for these anymore on your main character. But if you saved any of these stones that were not bound, you can trade them over to your alts, and you can start working on your alts gear, so you can actually put them to use. So just a little thing, if you have several piles here, use the bound ones first. But yeah, these come in piles from the Chaos Dungeon. So again, these Harmony Leapstones, these are also going to come from your important tasks such as the Chaos Dungeon, the Guardian Dungeon as well, the Una's tasks. These are very limited. Like, you're going to get to a point where you feel like you need more of these, so make sure that you are constantly on the lookout for them. And the last thing that I want to mention is probably the least important thing really for now, but you might, if you end up having them, save them for the higher levels, and that's going to be the Star's Breath. Now, once you get to an equipment enhancement level of +7, your enhancements are no longer guaranteed. They now have a chance to fail. Up to +7, so from +0 to +7, all of your enhancements, once you fill up that experience bar right here, once you actually get this to 100%, there is a 100% chance that you are going to succeed your enhancement. However, and I'm actually going to do this on a character just as an example, once you get past +7, there's actually a chance to fail. And you'll see here that I use the shards to give it experience. Now I can actually hone the gear, which is to, do the upgrade process and move it from level 7 to level 8. And you'll see here that there's a 90% success rate. So there is a 10% chance that you fail and lose these materials, which is very sad, especially these leapstones, because these are going to be very limited. And so because of that, if you do have any of these Star's Breath, what you can do is you can use them to increase your success chance and obviously have a lower chance to lose those materials. Now, I probably would not, if you have these, you can get these in the cash shop. I don't really recommend it. It's kind of one of my mistakes. I think I bought too many of these, and I don't think I really, I think I'd rather put those gems to better use now that I think about it. But I would probably save these until your gear has a bit of a lower success chance. The material costs are higher because you're putting them to better use. If you use them right now, each Star's Breath is just not going to get as much of a return and as much value as if I use it when I get to the higher levels. You're going to be looking at taking your gear to level 15. That's going to be the threshold, really, that gets you to 600 item level. And once you get to 600 item level, that's going to be the point that allows you to transition into tier 2. So in order to do that, you're going to need to do this process from level 0 all the way to +15. So if you're limited on these, use them in the later levels, put them to better use. Don't worry about the levels past 15. They become very difficult, and you want to focus really on just getting your gear score for transitioning from tier 1 to tier 2. So anyway, I think I threw a lot of info in this video. It's a very overwhelming process. I've been overwhelmed myself, but I've learned a lot. I've made mistakes, and hopefully, through information like this, I can help some of you guys out who might be starting. Get a better idea of this so you don't waste as many resources as I did. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider leaving a like, consider subscribing. Check out the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/salt. And that's about it. So have a good one.